Hello, Serious Survivor here, and today we're going to look at what's in the Democrats' Build Back Better $1.75 trillion social spending and climate bill. We're going to break this down and look at the major categories and see where a lot of this money is supposedly going to and see who it's going to impact the most. We're going to see why as we look at this. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. Are you happily putting your life savings on the stock market right now, despite the dangers? If you've been thinking about investing safer so you can retire comfortably and sleep at night, you could do worse than talking to a Noble Gold expert about the tax advantages and other pluses of precious metal IRAs. Of course, you might just love uncertainty, but if you don't, you can get a free America the Beautiful solid silver 5-ounce coin with any qualifying plan you start. Call 877-646-5347 or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. The Build Back Better package cost an estimated $1.7 trillion over a decade. And this is a drop from the initial package that began as $3.5 trillion. And although it was cut in half, it is still opposed by Republicans and by most Americans who are actually reading into this bill and seeing what all it entails. But the Democrats are enacting this plan through a budgetary process called reconciliation, which allows it to clear the Senate without any Republican support, solely only with Democratic support. So this bill can pass without one single Republican vote. So let's look at what's in this framework. The first section discusses fighting climate change, and there is $555 billion for climate and clean energy investments. The plan is designed to cut greenhouse emissions by 50% by 2030 and to enact multiple programs that give incentives and punishments to energy companies that comply or don't comply with the acceptable amount of growth that's laid out in this bill. This bill is attempting to take energy companies and force them to increase by about 4% per year towards clean energy, which is our solar and wind energy for the most part. Increases more than that cost major investments, and that's what this bill is not addressing. And when companies, energy companies, or any company has to make major investments in their internal infrastructure just to be able to provide their product, who catches that cost? That cost will be passed down to the consumer. We already see rising gas prices at a rate that we haven't seen in a decade, energy prices on the rise, and shortages in oil and other products such as that. And with the talk of closing another pipeline, we're going to see these prices increase even more. That in itself is going to cause the inflation that we're already experiencing to steamroll out of control, basically, because as these energy costs go up, it will affect every single production, manufacturing, service facility in the United States. And the reason is because all of these facilities have two things in common. And one of those is electricity. The second is gasoline, diesel, or some type of delivery service for their product or service. And when the core cost of gasoline and energy go up, then the cost of those products and those services will in turn go up by at least that amount, but probably by more. And the reason they'll probably go up by more than just the standard increase in gas or energy is because companies will try and think towards the future at the rate in which these prices are increasing, and they'll try to encompass that into their daily prices that we pay for our goods and our services. Now, this does provide tax credits to those who buy new electric vehicles, and this tax credit would be up to $12,500. The bill also includes child care and universal pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds. And the plan limits child care costs for some families to no more than 7% of their income. So this is basically aimed, once again, at the lowest tier of income. And, I'm all for helping someone who is low income and people, helping people and all that. But on the same hand, childcare is expensive. All this is expensive. And just because someone falls into the middle class category doesn't mean they could not also use that assistance. If the assistance is going to be given to those who, say, are not working or those who are not making enough money, then why can't the assistance also be expanded to those who are trying to work and trying to make a better living? Medicare expansion. This will expand basically hearing services. This will expand to cover more hearing services, but they did shoot down the dental and vision. Benefits. An expanded tax credit, child tax credit. The tax credit was expanded in 2021 through the COVID relief plan, and now it will be extended through 2022. And this raises the child tax credit for individuals who have a qualifying child. One thing that it also does in this category is it expands the earned income credit so that those who have children, even though they do not have a qualifying earned income, so say for instance someone who makes $0 last year would still be eligible for earned income credit, as opposed to someone who fell in the middle of that bracket to get the largest amount. So once again, even though this sounds like a great thing, it is targeted towards the lower income, which, is fine. 4 weeks of paid family and medical leave. And there's not a lot of information I've been able to gain about what are the exact qualifications, what are the exact restrictions for those that need, 4 weeks of paid family and medical leave. Will everyone qualify for this, or will only those within a certain tax bracket qualify? And so far, I haven't found a true answer to that question, so not going to get too deep into it. But then immigration, and this includes $100 billion to reform the nation's immigration system. And this will allow the Department of Homeland Security to give an estimated 7 million unauthorized immigrants work permits and temporary protection from deportation, similar to the DACA during the Obama era. This is also a serious subject. We see immigration is a very serious issue when we look at our southern border right now and what's going on down there. And this is expanding. What it's not really currently saying in this article, and I will post links to multiple articles that talk about this so that you can read all of it, and I encourage everyone to read it. This is not the people who are already applying for these work permits and visas and things. These are new cases. So these are people that are coming across now that are coming across illegally, and they're attempting to give them status that make it legal for them to be here. Housing and health care provisions. This includes $150 billion to build or improve more than 1 million new affordable housing units and help with rental and down payment assistance. It also makes investments in maternal health, community violence initiatives, Native communities, and supply chain resilience. Supply chain resilience is something we definitely need, and we see that now. It's the just-in-time delivery system that companies went to decades ago, really, that they started moving to save themselves from having to pay for warehouses, basically, and that's what it boils down to. It saves them from having to rent or purchase a warehouse to store their goods in. And when we see the slightest disruption, then it steamrolls like we're seeing now. But one of the things about this one too is when you read deeper into this section, this is also aimed at the very lower income bracket. And like I said before, I've got nothing against the lower income bracket. It's not that I'm being negative towards that. It's the fact that it's lower income bracket, and then what we're going to see later is focused on the higher income bracket. The middle class is receiving no assistance whatsoever from this bill. And a lot of people will say, well, if they're middle class, they don't need it. But that's just completely untrue, because the middle class is just the average person in America that's trying to make it, that's trying to support their family, pay their bills, provide a home, feed their families. But it's still not an easy thing to do. Just because you fall into the middle class doesn't mean you couldn't use some of this assistance to help give your family a little better life. But we're being ignored, except for one thing. We're going to be the ones that pick up the cost on this. And this plan is also expected, once again, to lower insurance premiums by an average of $600 per person for more than 9 million Americans who already purchase insurance through the Affordable Care Act's marketplace, and provide coverage for up to 4 million Americans who are currently uninsured. Once again, those are good numbers. They sound good, but what does it really do? We saw the effects of Obamacare when it was first put in, And a lot of people lost their coverage. My insurance went up. I lost my coverage for a while, and I ended up paying double of what I was paying because I fall into the middle class tax bracket instead of the lower class at the time. Two things that were cut from the bill that would have probably benefited a lot of people are 2 free years of community college, although a lot of states do offer that program. I know South Carolina, if you're a resident of South Carolina, you can go to any community, state-funded community college in the state, and the state will pick up the tuition for you. Cutting prescription drug prices. Now that would be great. It's hard to see how exactly they're going to do that, but that was also cut from the bill. Now, this is the concerning part, and this is the part that's going to impact us the most, because for me, falling into the middle class, a lot of what we saw there is not going to impact me. I'm not going to get more on my child tax credit. I'm not going to get any housing help, any housing assistance or rental or down payment assistance. I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to get any of the benefits that we already talked about that were proposed in that bill. For the majority of Americans in the middle class, that part of that bill is not going to benefit you in any way at any point right now. What is going to affect us is how this bill is paid for. And to begin with, a 15% minimum tax will be imposed on corporate profits that large corporations report to shareholders, as well as a 1% surcharge on corporate stock buybacks. And this is estimated to raise $450 billion in new revenue. What happens when companies pay more for something? Whether it be for taxes, whether it be for the raw materials that they use to produce their goods, or whether it be for the gasoline they use to transport that goods. Any increase in a company's cost to produce goods or provide services results in an increase for the consumer of that product or service. So once again, even though the middle class is not having their taxes raised, we're going to feel that pinch. Everyone, middle and lower class here, is going to feel that pinch when we go to the gas pump, when we go to the grocery store, when we go to purchase any goods. This framework also calls for a global minimum tax and new surtax on the wealthiest Americans' income. This would impose a 5% tax rate above those with an income over $10 million and another 3% surtax on incomes over $25 million. Once again, this is taxing the wealthiest people. And, we all think everybody should pay their fair share. I pay a lot in taxes. I'm sure you pay a lot in taxes. Unless you don't have an income, then you probably pay a lot in taxes. But anytime you buy something at a store, anytime you purchase anything, you're paying taxes on that. Now, as the taxes increase on the people that produce our goods, the people that provide our services, the companies, I should say, the corporations that do this, then they're going to pass that cost increase on to us. And these are huge cost increases that we're talking about. And this is happening right now at the beginning of what Biden calls our dark winter. And it's happening during a recession almost, even though it may not be classified, totally as a recession right now, but we know we're heading into a tough spot. Gas prices are high. Inflation is absolutely through the roof. It's almost unaffordable to even eat these days. And with these increases on the companies that produce the goods that we consume, those increases will be passed on to us. With more mandates and more restrictions being placed, more people losing their jobs, which means less people are buying a lot of these products, which in turn is going to drive the price of these products up even more, if not put some companies out of business. But this inflation is fixing to take off in a way that we've never seen it before if this bill makes it through. And it's going to happen immediately almost. Companies will begin increasing their prices before the bill even takes effect because they want to be able to put that money back to pay for these tax increases that they're going to see. So price increases will happen before the bill takes effect. We're already seeing it, and we're going to see more of it. And the only thing we can do to truly prepare for this is to try and make ourselves as self-sufficient as possible and try and be as close as we can to those in our group, those in our family, those who we will rely on and who will rely on us, because that's about all we're going to have. The government isn't going to do anything but collect money from us and pass mandates and things like that. So we're going to have to be able to rely on the people around us and to be able to help provide for the people around us. And this is not an easy task. It's something that requires a lot of thought and planning. I just wanted to touch on what this Build Back Better program actually does. And as we can see, it does a lot, but not much of it is going to be good, because the good things that they did talk about are the things that'll probably be pushed to the side and, to make way for the other programs they're trying to push through. So I'll leave some links below for this. Thanks a lot for watching. God bless, and for now, Seer Survivor